Imagine living every single day in terror, knowing that tonight, someone might creep into your home, silence you with a gun, and take everything from you again. Now, imagine the day you finally decide enough is enough. A young mother in Turkey, trapped, violated, and blackmailed, chose to fight back in the most shocking way possible. And what she did after pulling the trigger in the entire world. If you've ever dreamed of seeing a monster finally pay the price for destroying someone's life, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you want more real revenge stories that grip your heart and shake your soul. Because today's story? It isn't just revenge. It's survival. The woman behind the headline. Nevin Yildirim was just 26, a mother of two little ones, ages 2 and 6. She lived in a quiet, rural village in southwestern Turkey. Life there was simple, traditional. But in villages like hers, honor wasn't just a word, it was everything. And women were expected to carry that burden on their shoulders, no matter the cost. Her husband worked far away in seasonal jobs, leaving her home alone with the children for months at a time. And it was in that vulnerable gap that her nightmare began. His name was Nurettin Jeter, 35 years old, a father himself, married to an aunt of Nevin's husband. In the daylight, he was a familiar face, a family connection. But behind closed doors, he was a predator. Just days after Nevin's husband left, Nurettin forced his way into her home. He threatened her with a gun, whispering that if she made a sound, he'd kill her children. Then he violated her. That was the beginning of an 8-month-long horror. Night after night, he returned. He took what he wanted, her body, her dignity, her peace of mind. And when rape wasn't enough, he escalated. One night, Nevin woke to find him in her home again, but this time, he wasn't just attacking her. He was taking pictures. Intimate photos. Even of her pregnant body after he forced himself on her. The pictures became a weapon. He told her, "If you ever resist me, I'll show everyone." In a culture where women's reputations dictated their family's survival, such exposure could destroy not only her life, but also her children's. Nevin later admitted she thought of suicide often. Death seemed like the only escape. But one thought kept her alive. Her children. She couldn't leave them. She couldn't let them grow up cursed with the label of bastards. By late August, Nevin was 5 months pregnant with her rapist's child. She had even begged health workers for an abortion, but the law in Turkey was strict. After 10 weeks, it was almost impossible unless the mother's life was in immediate danger. She felt trapped, cornered, shamed. And then came August 28th. That night, she saw him again. Nurettin was climbing up the back wall of her house. She didn't need to guess why he was there. She knew. The gun. The threats. The endless cycle of violation. But this time, she wasn't going to let it happen. Her father-in-law's rifle hung on the wall. She grabbed it. Her hands trembled. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. When Nurettin entered, she didn't beg. She didn't cry. She fired. He staggered, shocked, trying to reach for his gun. She fired again. He fell, cursing, writhing, still alive. But Nevin's fury had boiled over. She aimed lower and pulled the trigger once more. The bullet tore through his sexual organ. Silence followed. Nevin said later, "I knew he was dead." But she wasn't finished. In what would become the most infamous act of her story, Nevin approached his lifeless body. She picked up a knife, and with the rage of 8 months of terror behind her, she severed his head. When villagers and reporters arrived, they saw it with their own eyes, his head lying on the ground. This wasn't just a killing. This was a statement. Of course, police arrived. Witnesses were horrified, and Nevin, drenched in the storm of her own trauma and fury, was arrested on the spot. At her preliminary hearing just 2 days later, Nevin didn't deny anything. She admitted she had planned to kill him, but not for revenge in the simple sense. For her honor. For her children's future. She told the court, "I thought of reporting him to the military police. But that would mark me forever as a scorned woman. Since I was going to get a bad reputation anyway, I decided to clean my honor. I thought of suicide many times, but I couldn't do it." Then she said the words that echoed across Turkey. Now no one can call my children bastards. Everyone will call them the children of the woman who cleaned her honor. Her case ignited fury and division. Some saw her as a cold-blooded murderer. Others as a survivor who finally fought back when no system, no law, no one else would protect her. Women's rights activists demanded her release, calling it self-defense after prolonged assault. Sociologists said her actions were the result of unbearable trauma and a broken system. And tragically, her story wasn't unique. Reports showed nearly half of women in rural Turkey had suffered violence at the hands of men. Nevin just became the face of it, because her revenge was impossible to ignore. Think about this. For 8 months, he owned every part of her life. Her body, her silence, her dignity. He thought he was untouchable. And in one night, she shattered that illusion. She took back control in the most primal, undeniable way possible. His reign of terror ended not in whispers and shame, but in blood and finality. For Nevin, it wasn't just about killing a man. It was about reclaiming her humanity, about making sure her children grew up not as victims of his power, but as survivors of her strength. It's a story that forces us to ask, when systems fail, when society looks away, what choice does a woman like Nevin really have? Some call it murder. Others call it justice. But one thing's for sure, she will never be forgotten. If this story shook you to your core, smash that like button right now. And tell us in the comments, do you think Nevin's actions were justified, or did she go too far? Make sure you subscribe, because we bring you more stories of revenge, survival, and justice every single week. Because sometimes, the most satisfying justice doesn't come from a courtroom. It comes from the people who've been wronged.